Tom, how you doing?
Randy, I'm awesome. How are you doing?
Excellent. Thanks so much for joining us. And for everybody watching, this is episode number 126. We've got very honored to have Tom Mendoza with us. The title topic is Culture and Leadership Lessons from a Legend. But obviously, there's so much more that you can share, but we only have a limited amount of time. As always, brought to you by Sales Community. For those that are members, thank you very much. For those that are not, Tucker will put a link. You can get a free membership. You can go to salescommunity.com/springfree. And we're sponsored by Sandler today. So they're probably the longest running fantastic sales training group out there. So they're awesome for sales training and performance improvement. They empower sales professionals and leaders to master the craft of selling at all levels. Because Tom, you know how important selling is, right?
It's the only thing that matters. You don't sell it, nobody knows.
There you go.
You get it.
So Tom lives in New York City. He's currently on the boards of some great companies, Vast, Varonis, and Particle. Previously also on Security Scorecard and UiPath. Obviously most famous or infamous from days at NetApp. I was trying to figure out, I think Tom and I first met each other 20 or so years ago through Bill Hogan and I think probably Kevin Shine. But although we've actually never worked together, I've always been a huge fan. I always watch different things that you post from your I was at business school at Notre Dame, West Point, all that, but definitely one of the most authentic, thoughtful leaders. And you definitely were the sales DNA of the fantastic sales culture at NetApp and made that company a raging success. So given my EMC lineage, it hurts me a little bit to say it, but as we get older, all those barriers come down, and so certainly fantastic respect for you. And
just as an aside, I think one of the best things that ever happened in NetApp was having a great competitor like EMC, because if you don't have a great competitor, you may not keep striving to improve because you're already winning, quote. We always knew that if we didn't do everything as well as possible and give everything we had, we'd get buried by EMC because they're a great company. And they did bury a lot of companies, just beat them. So I honestly believe when I reflect back on those years, that was one of the best things that happened to us.
Oh, that's great. And high tides float all boats. Probably, likewise, EMC would probably say the same thing because once they took IBM out, not much else there out there. So from Guy Cirillo, who is a fantastic longtime Wall Street CIO and now COO at Fiserv, says Tom is a proven leader and mentor to many. His insights and instincts around technology and creating commercial value is best in class. But it's his energy around everything that he does, which is unparalleled. In my language, he's Oak, O-A-K, one of a kind. Enjoy him. He's a good friend for over 25 years. Carl Eschenbach, who also has previously been on the podcast, currently CEO of Workday, says Tom is one of the most iconic and passionate leaders of our generation. Not only a great leader, but also an incredible human being. I'm a true friend and fan of Tom's. He's one of the best. When he speaks, you must listen. Bill Hogan, who we both love. Tom, first and foremost, is a passionate family man, husband to Ty, father to Jake and Mia. Jake 7, Mia 3, soon to be 3, I think this weekend. Tom is legendary from his role in building NetApp to glory. He served as president and ultimately vice chairman, voted #1 company to work for in the world in 2009. That year, Notre Dame was also voted #1 business school in the U.S. Pretty good year. Tom's namesake of Mendoza College of Business at Notre Dame is one of the Irish and one of Notre Dame's biggest supporters. Has also become a big lacrosse fan since being introduced to Notre Dame lacrosse legend Matt Cavanaugh, and will be rooting for Notre Dame and Matt's younger brothers, Pat and Chris, who star for the current team playing in the Final Four in Philly this weekend. That'll be exciting. And then Peter Bell. Tom was kind enough to be a keynote speaker at our sales kickoff for Storage Networks in 2001. We had a team of about 225 people of our go-to-market in the audience. Tom had most of us in teams as he talked about leadership, teamwork, and delivering for each other and our customers. I will never forget it and cannot thank Tom enough. And Peter goes on to say he was also honored. You couldn't attend some speaking engagement you had at Notre Dame, and you picked him to backfill him. So he certainly was honored to do that. Mike Wing, president at Vast Data, Tom is the most sincere, most down-to-earth executive I've ever had the pleasure of getting to know, and an expert on building a winning company culture. Since joining the Vast Data Board of Directors almost 3 years ago, he's been amazing to work with and an incredible asset of our team. Not sure what more he could do to help us be successful. And then Piyush Mehta, who's Data Dynamics. Tom is an inspirational leader that leads by example. His willingness to take time to speak to each individual, assist in any way he can, and support them selflessly is a rare trait. NetApp, UiPath, Vast would not be the market-leading companies without Tom being an integral part of their journey. He's always helped me every time I've reached out, and I respect him and value his friendship. Dave Riley, who's recently retired, not really retired, a longtime Wall Street CIO, not doing boards. Dave and I, by chance, are also on the board of Data Dynamics. Tom always puts his customers first. In the years we have partnered together across different economic cycles, I've always felt that he had my team, my companies, and my own best interest at heart, particularly when we were faced with tough challenges. He took the time to understand our strategy and what we're trying to achieve. Never made a promise he did not keep, and is someone I trust completely. He's an outstanding partner and even better friend. So those are pretty good from some fantastic people, huh?
Let's wrap it up right there. Thanks.
Done. Perfect. All right. Well, I'm going to take this thing off my head. So let's jump into the questions here. So maybe tell us about your professional background, maybe starting after college.
Randy, I think looking back at my career, if I took that question and be, what do you think made you successful at the beginning? Because that first, I think if you ask anybody, first 10 years out of college probably set the tone for whatever you were going to do, right? First thing that happened is I got in tech sales by accident, and I realized the guy was trying to hire my brother. My brother didn't want a job, so he told him to call me. I just got at Notre Dame. So I wasn't really thinking about sales as a career or tech. But once I got into it, I love the fact that I don't like transactional sales so much, but I love being introduced to companies, learning about them, their complex problems. As John Morgridge, who was my boss at Stratus Computer, and he went on to be the first CEO of Cisco, said to me in 1989, he says, Tom, it's important we understand the skill we both have. We don't know anything about selling a lot of people something. We know a lot about selling a few people a lot. That's kind of what I love doing. I love like David Riley or Guy Sherrill. I know them because I had the opportunity to work closely with their teams and their people. So the first thing was I found what I had a passion for selling and selling tech into large companies. Point one. When I was 26 at Data General, I got asked to be a district manager. I was 10 years younger than anybody else at the firm at that point that got that job. And I really didn't want to do it. I'm like, geez, right now, all I have to do is worry about where I'm going to a restaurant that night, who I'm going to try and meet and all that kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden I said, now I got to worry about all these others like herding cats. But the fact of the matter is, I got talked into it. And the moment I got the opportunity to give a plaque rather than get a plaque, I knew that's what I would do the rest of my life. I had such a more compelling feeling of this is what I want. I love being on a team, and I love trying to help the other people on a team succeed. And when they do it, I played some part. I find that incredibly rewarding. And then the last thing I would say is I started doing public speaking pretty early in my career. I looked for opportunities to speak because people seem to want me to. And when I speak, I always think of what do you want the audience to feel, not think. And I think, so when I took a lot of preparation, I never use slides or anything. But those three things kind of set the tone for what, and I did my first startup 9 years after I got out of Notre Dame. So I was asked at a forum at Notre Dame once, and I had all these VCs there, and Dave Hitz and James Lauder, founders of NetApp. If you get out of school, would you go right to a startup? And everyone said go right to a startup. This is 15 years ago. And when they asked me, I said, I'm glad I didn't. Because by the time I did my first startup, I knew how to sell, I knew how to hire, I knew how to build a team, and how to motivate. I knew I had failed enough, so I understood what I shouldn't do. And now I'm ready. So the one thing I encourage people to think about coming out of school is I would look at your first 10 years as a paid MBA.
Yeah.
Constantly be learning, take stuff that challenges you. Because at the end of the day, now you're 30 after 8 years, now you should be ready to take off.
Yep, absolutely. And we've got a Tucker behind the scenes here helping us. So Tucker looks like John Fox says, "Go Irish, my friends." Peter Bell says, "What a legend." So for those watching along, I guess watching or listening on through LinkedIn app, you can also post any questions or make any comments, and we'll do our best to get to those. So thanks.
I appreciate Foxy and Peter for even listening. Thank you, guys. Thank you for the kind comment.
And so our title topic is culture and leadership lessons from a legend. So I know you can talk all day about those, but what are some top of mind points?
Well, I've always felt that you could win by treating people poorly. Been proven over and over again. You can be at top of almost any field, maybe any field, and do it selfishly and treat people poorly. I just didn't want that to be what we're going to do. So when I got to NetApp, Dan Warmanoven came in about 6 months after me. I always bring that up, and he always brings up he's a week younger than me, but be that as it may. And we had our first offsite, the two of us and the two founders, the rest of the team, but that's kind of who ran NetApp for a long time. And they said, "What's our mission?" This is January 1995, or 95. And so usually when you get in that discussion, you go to revenue, you go to EBITDA, you go to list. We left there with saying, we are going to create and build a company we're proud of the rest of our lives. That's what we're going to do. And that informed how we ran NetApp. If somebody said, "I want to promote Randy," are you proud of him? If the answer is, I am absolutely proud to have Randy on my team, that was the end of the discussion. If the answer was proud, I don't know, I'd say proud, I was really, really good. Take a step back. What is it that you're not proud of? Go talk to him about it. You should look left and right, and the people on your team are depending upon you making sure they look left and right, and you're proud of each other. When you're proud of each other, you'll do almost anything. So from there, drove me to, it was very much the way I like to lead, which is from a very personal point of view. I want to know people. I want to know who they are. I don't want to just see numbers. At the end of the day, I want, my dad did this for me. He put so much into how I grew up that it meant an enormous amount to me not to let him down. Then, I reflect back on different points I could have really screwed up, just like everybody else. And what pulled me back was it would kill my dad if I ever screwed up like that. Well, I felt like I had to put so much into my job that when I asked back, people would come through, not because they're afraid, not because they're intimidated, just didn't want to let me down. And I had to earn that. And so that kind of was how we built the culture was. And a couple of things about the culture. I also think it's important that you can say what your culture is. And I'll give it to you very fast. So 5 things in our culture we cared about. Everywhere in the world I went, I talked about it. Randy, we went from 0 to $1 billion in 6 years, 250 million to $1 billion in 2. There was a guy one time walking down the hall. I said, "Who do you work for?" He said, "You." Oh, geez, maybe I should slow down. But anyway, it was going very, very fast. So as I traveled, I always had one requirement. I never flew under 250,000 commercial miles my first 20 years at NetApp. Is that we would have a team meeting and I would talk about what the culture was. I'd say, "Here's 5 things in our culture we care about. Number 1 is attitude. Nothing great's ever been done by people that didn't want to do it, ever. And you should remember that you are 100% in control of your attitude. Have a good one. Number 2 is candor. You should be able to say the truth in a meeting, regardless of title. And when that door opens, we're on the same page. But in this room, if you're not going to rate stuff, we probably don't need you in the room."
Yep, exactly.
I've spoken to many, many companies, Randy, and that's the one people wish they had. The third one was catch someone doing something right. We grew so fast that all of a sudden I couldn't see everybody. So I said, if you see somebody, I told the leaders first, that's doing something extraordinary for NetApp. If you see somebody doing something extraordinary for a partner, if you see somebody does something extraordinary for a customer or for society, let me know and I'll call them and thank them. And that turned into one of the great joys of my life was doing that every day. I averaged about 10 calls a day. And I moderated it about 10 years later to say, if you know somebody who's a great employee, but they're struggling, maybe we overgold them, maybe the products let them down, maybe they have a child sick at home, just let me know and I'll call them just to see if there's something we could do to help. And I'm telling you, those are the calls people never forgot. When they were down, everybody's on your side when you're winning. But calling them, just say, look, Randy, I know you made the club the last 5 years. You didn't make it this year. Can you tell me why? And is there anything I can do to help? I made those calls every year to people who didn't make it who normally do. That's what they remember, not that. The fourth one I would say that I cared about was leadership rather than management. Obviously, management's important, but leadership's a different skill. And I always say about leadership, people don't care what you know unless they know that you care. Show them you care. And when you ask back, they will show you they care. And the final one was embracing change. You're either getting better or you're getting worse. If you're staying the same, you're getting worse. So I would ask people in meetings, Randy, what are you doing to get better at? I just want to know. And you should have that on your mind. You should be doing a self-improvement program all the time. And I'll help any way I can. That's kind of what we tried to do, and it worked out.
That's great. So amazing attitude, candor, doing right, leadership versus management, embracing change. So, and
the third one is catch someone doing something right. The reason I pointed out again, I started with the leaders. It soon it morphed into people calling me about their fellow employees. They're looking for the good in each other. Of course, if you want to come forward and say, I think we need to do this better. I remember one time I said to somebody, I said, okay, what would you do? Well, I don't know. I haven't given it that much thought. Bad conversation. As long as you're willing to offer a solution. Otherwise, you just dump it on me. But I'm very willing to have those conversations. But more important to me was that people give you their heart and soul. Make sure they know that you appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. So Tucker, let's see if we can pull up here. Let's see here. So we have from Dean. Tom, any advice? Great question. Any advice on building a great culture during trying times, specifically the inevitable bumpy road in early stage startups, plus you got the economy now?
Yeah, so what I think we improved at NetApp is we built a culture that was good in good or bad times. That's the only reason it's good. You know, when turned to good times in the 90s when the stock went crazy, I used to say we could whip everybody at 2 o'clock. I said, okay, for that much money, you can do whatever you want. When the dot-com bubble blew, Randy, remember, we went public at 12, 424 splits, and it went to 156. We were the third best performing stock in the 90s. Dot-com bubble burst, 75% of our business was tech or internet. Stock went to 6 from 156. So I always say you find out if you got a friend when you got a problem. We've all had that situation, both in your personal life and business life, that people you expect to step up don't, and people you never thought would do, and your relationship changed forever. Well, we found out when we hit that wall, it wasn't like our company did something terrible. Our market froze. Well, I had a headhunter say to me, top guy, he ended up being a partner of Sequoia. He said, there's only 2 companies we can't get people to leave right now, Apple and you. And so I became convinced that because they knew we were being candid with them, we said, look, we don't know what's happening. We're going to have to do our first cut. The 4 executives split in twos, and we went to 80% of all the offices in the world and said it in person. We didn't send out an email. We didn't do a video. We said, look, in Tokyo, I'll never forget. But Tom said we were doing so well. We were, but here's the situation. We hired ahead, thinking 50% growth, and we're going to decrease by 20%. If we don't take an action, we'll go out of business. And we're not. So we were very thoughtful about what happened to the people impacted. We paid them at the top. But we also said it's critical to make sure everybody knows they didn't screw up. The business got hammered. And I would think something like 50, 60% came back to work for us. So at the end of the day, if you're doing culture right, it should work for you when it's tougher because people believe you. People know you're being honest with them. You don't say stuff you don't know, but you say, here's what I believe to be true, and here's the decisions we're going to make, and here's the outcome I think we can pull off. It's like when I interviewed people, Randy, I never sold anybody on the company. What I told them is what I believed, good and bad. I mean, it's going to be tough. Building a great company is tough. There is no easy way. Maybe somebody hits a lottery, but in general, when you look at companies like EMC or NetApp or other companies that ended up doing great, on the outside, it looks like, oh my God, it must have just been like that. It didn't feel that way inside. And there's no company, now NetApp's in its 30th year. There's no company that's been around that long that hasn't had a lot of good and bad. And how you face that is a real sign of your culture. I think definitely for our first 15 years, Dan, I stepped down as president in 2009. Dan stepped up from CEO to chairman in 2010, I believe, or 11. For those years, we really had control of what was happening. And I think the style of management I'm talking about was very, very evident during those years.